Alrighty here. Why VTubers get Twitch TOS so wrong? Yeah, the hot topic question that everyone's been wondering about since the explosion of the VTubers on Twitch. Why do VTubers seem like they are treated so differently when you can have people like Asian Bunny and Amaranth do even worse stuff and get away with it? Well, hopefully Dan Clancy can answer this. This is a question everyone's been asking. And luckily for us, we got the lovely Geega from V Shoujo to be our surrogate from the VTuber community. So, let's get the show on the road.
I'm going to go to a question that I know a number of VTubers have. And Geega, you might not want to be the one to ask this question, or you might, but
Okay.
I will go ahead and ask the question that I know many VTubers have and then answer it because I know it's one that's on many VTubers' mind. Is the whole question about our enforcement guidelines and when we publish the enforcement guidelines, the attire guidelines, and in particular the comparison to VR chat. Okay.
Yes,
and in
I was
terms
going to
of what our
ask.
guidelines are. Okay, good.
Yeah.
Good.
I imagine that question is the elephant in the room for pretty much any conversation between VTubers and Twitch staff. Because it's a very hot button question. If you spend any time on Twitter or, in fact, any social media site in general with VTuber communities, it's like a daily occurrence that some VTuber is getting banned for some reason, and 90% of the time it seems like it's not a very good one. Oddly enough, Cottontail, who got banned recently, it actually makes sense she got banned. And yeah, she made a mistake and she took it on the chin, so yeah. Wait, they shouldn't use that terminology. But anyways, yeah, she admits that she made a mistake and it was fine. But oddly enough, Cottontail, in her 5 years, never got banned, but despite the type of content she makes, but VTubers who've been there for maybe 1 year, or 2 years, or 3 years, get banned for a risque outfit. So, hopefully Dan Clancy can address the situation.
Well, you can feel free to ask. Why don't you go ahead and ask? But I wanted to go ahead and ask the way you would ask it then.
Of course. I think, I was definitely going to say it nicely because I think a lot of it comes from just confusion, people not being sure what the guidelines are, who they apply to. Maybe they're looking for more clarity. Some people are just complaining. Some people are more validly complaining. You know, there's a lot of different ranges on that. But overall, a lot of VTubers are confused about the outfit policy. They'll think maybe it means one thing, and then they get their model made, which, you know, takes like 6 months to a year sometimes. And then they debut it that day, and then they're told that's not allowed actually, right? So there's a lot of uncertainty on what is and isn't allowed. And then why, like you said, why can a VR chat avatar look a certain way, but then this person who's using a model that they also use in VR chat not allowed to stream a video game with that or chatting, that sort of thing.
Yeah. First, let me, and I think this is a good question.
How come I'm allowed to play Stellar Blade on Twitch, but I'm not allowed to have a Stellar Blade VTuber cosplay on my character? Well, not my character exactly, but, you know, other VTubers couldn't do that, and we all know why.
In fact, some of this I'll also throw out there is because you highlight one of the problems that exist here that doesn't happen in the real world that I'd love for us to find a better solution for. So first of all, when we published the enforcement guidelines, there was no change to our policy. In fact, part of what we were trying to do was sometimes people have to implicitly figure out what the policy is by talking to people that have enforcements. And what we were trying to do was to be clear about how we were, and we didn't change how we were enforcing it all around then. But of course, as we do it, that also then brings more attention to something that was already happening in terms of enforcements. Okay, but we didn't change anything with the enforcement guidelines. Now, our general policy is that we apply the same attire guidelines to a VTuber as we do to a person.
Bullshit. I'll let him finish. I'm saying bullshit right off the bat.
In terms of the clothing that they have on their body, in terms of covering their hips and everything else. And now I'm not going to go into talking through the nuances of the attire policy for humans because, first of all, I'm not the expert on all the nuances of enforcing the attire policy on humans. It's also something that is nuanced and yet.
He means he's not a woman. That's what he means. He's not a woman. And he knows that he's walking on eggshells.
to be, very careful on, and we've tried to communicate what is our tire policy for humans. And so the same thing applies to VTubers. Now, the big question is, well, wait, why is that when you don't have the same policy with VR chat? And then, in fact, shouldn't VTubing just be like VR chat? And I understand why VTubers avoid that. Seems unfair. They can have that, avatar in VR chat, but I can't have it as I'm a VTuber. The reason for the difference is, and you highlighted earlier about how VTubers do everything on our site. VR chat, if VR chat is a game and VR chat has a rating in the game, and when people go to VR chat, they have certain expectations about the type of content that they are going to be exposed to.
Okay, I am going to let him finish, but I want to get this thought out. What if you put an 18 plus rating on your stream? What about that? Would that serve the same purpose as having a rating on VR chat? Very, very valid question, I think, on my part. Because what's the point of putting an 18 plus notification on your stream if it's not going to mean anything? Because 18 plus means adult and over, and having quote unquote, let's just say risque outfits does go over to that adult content, but in a different way. You guys understand what I'm trying to get at? All right, Dan Clancy, finish what you were saying.
In terms of the avatars that they may see. Now, of course, VR chat is just an environment, and VR chat can all be
Let me just rewind this.
Everything on our site. VR chat, if VR chat is a game and VR chat has a rating in the game, and when people go to VR chat, they have certain expectations about the type of content that they are going to be exposed to in terms of the avatars that they may see. Now, of course, VR chat is just an environment, and VR chat can all be lollipops and bubblegum and unicorns, or VR chat can be, less attire for their avatars and all sorts of things. However, it is the fact that much of especially since when you're in VR chat, you have no idea who you might run into. It's certainly the case that as you go and watch somebody streaming in VR chat, you learned a given expectation about what you might see in terms of VR chat. And we, of course, use the game ratings and other things to make sure that users are aware of that. That is not the case with a VTuber.
Yeah.
A VTuber can play Minecraft, right? A VTuber can do anything.
Yeah.
And so there, when you have less attire, for some people, they might find that may not be what they are looking for when they are going into a Minecraft stream. And especially given we have people of all ages, it's not just an age thing, but...
So, let me get this straight. Basically, VR chat, that there may be risque content, so it's okay for it to be on VR chat. But because a VTuber can play Minecraft, so what, if they still have that 18 plus on it, does that not count? Does that not count as a rating system? What, because they play Minecraft? What? It makes absolutely no sense. It makes no sense. So, Dan Clancy, Twitch, you have it backwards. It's supposed to be, VR chat models are supposed to be quote-unquote problematic, and then the VTuber models aren't problematic, because you can put a rating, you can put 18 plus on your stream. So I don't understand what the problem is. Why is that not okay? And why do VTubers get banned for that, but they don't get banned for having a VR chat model? Okay. Let him explain.
It is the fact that we have people of all ages, not of all ages, of 13 and above on Twitch. And you do want to think differently when somebody's under 18. But there's also lots of users of all sorts of ages. That's like, no, that's just not what I want to be exposed to in terms of, I'll say less attire. And so that's the reason we kind of need to treat VTubing different than VR chat because of the very nature of it. And interestingly in this,
so stupid.
I think these lines are going to continue to blur where more and more in gaming, you're going to have control over your avatar in gaming. Okay. And
Exactly. He already says the lines are blurred. So what's the point of even drawing a line then? If the line's going to blur, you already know it's going to blur. So why are you even drawing a line? Please tell me. And hopefully he will tell me. But it seems like he won't. I hope he does.
And you'll have
GTA.
more and more expressibility. In
Yeah.
GTA 6, Lord knows what you'll be able to do in your avatar in
It's
GTA
going to
6.
question those things, and we might have to continue to adapt our policy to like
Right.
see how things go, but that is where we're
Right.
currently standing with it, which is like your VR model we are comparing to a person, because like a person, which you are, you can
Yeah.
change games, you can change categories, you can do all these different things, but when you're in a game, that's a game model, so we consider them separate.
But you can change your VR model. What are you talking about? You can change your VR model. But what, you can't... So, Jesus Christ. The mental gymnastics in my head's actually making steam come out my ears. Making smoke. Oh my god. So, but you can change your VR model, but they're saying... But then with your VTuber model, say, oh, you can change that. So it's okay to have a rule for that. But you can't change your VR model? Your VR chat model? What? Okay.
So can I ask two follow-up questions on that? Because I get what you're saying, Dan.
Geega.
Completely agree, right?
Please.
Because at least when you're playing certain games, you have certain labeling and things, which I assume has a lot to do with advertisers and a lot of these other things, like just knowing, you know, what's going on the platform. Let's say, now I don't do this, you can see I'm covered head to toe, but let's say I wanted to get an outfit that was more revealing. I know, for example, I can go into the pools, beaches, hot tubs category and show it off there. What if I wanted to just be like that all the time? Could I, in the future, maybe consider having some sort of label or content classification that lets me do that, so that let's say people want to filter that out and it's not fully adult content, for example, but I know the nature of this outfit is what it is, and I want to just click a button and say I want to do anything and be in any category doing this, but I'm not trying to be shown to, you know, the minors that might be on the site. Would there be a way to kind of meet in the middle there?
I think so. By the way, you talked about the two different ways of doing this. One is labeling and the other is a category.
Yes.
Those have different pros and cons, and sometimes we do both, right? You know, in other words, so for example, with the attire exception, right? For human, you need to be in the hot tubs category, and that
makes sense. But
is applied, and now some people may not want to be in the hot tubs category, but they want to use the attire exception. And it's like, no, sorry, if you want to use the attire exception, you need to be in the hot tub category, and it's not just labeling it. Okay, the tricky by the way, and I think thinking of something like that is certainly something that we, you know, can be thinking of and are, and trying to figure out how to handle this. One of the challenges that we face is, as we do certain things, sometimes people find ways to exploit it to an extreme. And the best example is when we made the change in terms of drawing and allow to use the human figure, and then art suddenly became dominated with a certain amount of content.
He means porn. Okay. Oh my god, my brain does hurt from the mental gymnastics this is. So, like, wait, let me get this straight. He said labels and categories. Alright, so the category would be the pools, hot tubs, and beaches, or whatever the hell it's called. That category. The softcore category. The softcore corn. The other would be the label, which I was talking about being 18 plus. Alright? Is that what he's saying? And let me rewind this. Hold on.
We made the change in terms of drawing and allow to use the human figure, and then art suddenly became dominated with a certain amount of content. And I will tell you, the thing that in general doesn't work great on Twitch is what I would call hybrid categories that have two very different use cases. And ASMR is an example of one such category. That ASMR...
The lewd ASMR, that's what he's really talking about. You have the normal ASMR where it's like some person rubbing cheese on a grater or something. And then you have the weird fetish nurse GOI stuff that's like very not on the nose, but it's pretty on the nose of what it is.
Has like two very different communities that kind of use ASMR and an audience that is different, but it's all within one category. Okay.
So wait. Let me get this straight. Because there's using his analogy of ASMR, because there's lewd ASMR and then non-lewd ASMR, you have this weird category where people that want to listen to ASMR might accidentally get the lewd content, and he's applying that to the VTuber community? Is that what he's doing? Yeah, you have some people like Geega who's covered, who's not wearing revealing outfits, but then you have people like Cottontail, who is very much the opposite. Is that what he's saying? He's like, well, we can't make the distinction. Wow, I can't speak. Distinction between the two. So we kind of just gotta have a blanket policy. But, well, isn't that what the 18 plus is for?
Okay.
Hopefully he'll address it.
That's my one hesitancy about just labeling, because then it can create certain categories might become where 50% of the content in that category is labeled, and now you create what is a hybrid category in terms of the audience that it's serving. Whereas hot tubs, it's better because if you take hot tubs versus ASMR, hot tubs is not as much of a hybrid category because there are not a lot of people that are just streaming in hot tubs just because they happen to be hanging out in hot tubs and that's what they're just doing for the day. But I think that idea
like
is
it's
definitely
managing expectations, really, is what you're pointing
Yeah.
out, right? Like, just
Yeah.
okay, that makes sense to me.
That I see his point. I think is not a very good reasoning. So because they can't separate the lewd VTubers from the non-lewd VTubers, they kind of have this blanket policy that if you're a lewd VTuber and you're using a non-BR chat model, well, guess what? You are not allowed to do that. You're bad. The bonk hammer being suspended. That is so obviously flawed. I'm speechless. But it seems pretty simple, honestly.
And here's
we also just have like a world of like gamers, and they're min-maxing understandably what we put out there because they are looking for ways to still express themselves but stay within our terms of service.
Exploit the terms of service. Let's call it what it is. It's exploitation.
Get that. Generally, what we want to try to avoid, though, is having such specificity in our rules that people are looking for ways to circumvent them, as opposed to what we really want, which is make sure that when you are expressing what you want to do, that your audience knows what they're in for. Don't tell me that you're Sailor Moon when you're gushing over magical girls. We can tell.
Right. Yeah.
Right. And by the
Yeah, no. No, that makes not a lot of sense. Let me just get this argument. Maybe I'm wrong. I have to rewind this.
People are looking for ways to circumvent them, as opposed to what we really want, which is make sure that when you are
so basically what she's saying is they want to have the rules vague enough that people can't say, oh, in the fine print it says this. That's what she's saying. They don't want that. So they need them to be vague enough that gives the enforcement of Twitch, the Twitch enforcement, plenty of room to operate so they can say, oh, we don't like that. Bonk. We don't like this. Bonk. That's what they're doing. That's what she's saying, and as a result, that's what they're doing. which is the fundamental issue. So, seems like on Twitch's end, they don't think there's an actual problem. Which, well, the first step to fixing a problem is acknowledging that the problem exists. And it doesn't seem like Twitch will acknowledge that the problem actually does exist.
Expressing
boy.
what you want to do, that your audience knows what they're in for. Don't tell me that you're Sailor Moon when you're gushing over magical girls. We can tell.
Right. Yeah.
Right. And by the way, that goes to, in general, whenever you have something that is sort of a little bit subjective in terms of the line, this is one thing that I see in chat a lot, the thing, oh, it's inconsistent. Okay. Well, another way to
You can say
talk
that
about
again.
consistency, suppose I had a black piece of paper and a white piece of paper, and I asked 100 people, is it black or white? Everyone will give me the same answers. Now, suppose I had chartreuse versus pick another color that is very close to chartreuse that many people may not really fully have a model of, violet versus purple, right? Which are two different colors. To be honest, I can't tell you the difference between violet versus purple. And if I asked a bunch of people, is it violet or purple? That in fact, you'd have a lot of people that get it wrong. And that's because the difference between violet and purple is very small, okay? And especially as you start talking about these things in terms of attire, sexual content, that sort of thing, it can be very subjective. And so in fact, as people try to move up to the boundary to get something as purple as possible, but still be violet, okay, let's assume for a second, purple's not allowed, but violet is. But they want to be as close to purple without being it. You're going to have a lot of people that are going to call it purple, and then you're going to have some purple stuff that the rater's going to call violet, because it is not clear. And so what then ends up happening is you can find examples. Look,
I'm going to let him finish, but it seems like what he's saying is you can't be somewhere in the middle between a lewd VTuber and a non-lewd VTuber. You're either lewd VTuber or you're not, which is problematic because once again you have Cottontail, who is definitely a lewd VTuber. But then you have someone who is not a lewd VTuber, like Fillion. Yeah, Fillion's not a lewd VTuber, but, you know, plenty of quote-unquote lewd moments happen on the stream. But she's clearly not a lewd VTuber. Yes, I know the memes say she is. Ha 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 ha. It's funny. But then you have someone in the middle, like Lucy Pyre, or Numi, or Bao, or Cinder, where... yeah, they're not lewd VTubers because they don't do NSFW content. And, you know, that's not like a big centerpiece of the content, but that aspect is certainly a part of it, though. So they're in like that in between. Well, what's the problem? So you can't, basically, what he's saying is that you can't have show tits on your VTuber model and have cleavage because some people might consider that to be lewd while others won't. So you just can't have it, is what it sounds like. Which is total BS.
Look, here's this violet thing, and they said it was purple, but this person was purple and they said it was violet. Oh my gosh. Okay. And the answer is, that is the nature of this problem when you have highly subjective things, whereas in other areas, it's not highly subjective. Frequently in terms of, you know, hate speech, it's pretty clear this person said this like horrendous thing.
Right.
Oh, I don't want to address that, but using the Asmongold situation, was Asmongold really promoting hate speech when he's made those comments about Gaza and Palestine? Let me just pose this question for you, to people that, regardless of your politics, let's use a different example. Is it hate speech to say that there are only two genders? I don't want an answer, just want to think about it, because we both know one group of people will say one thing, the other group of people will say another. So is it hate speech? It's a yes or no.
And so I encourage people, if you're trying to get as close to the line without going over the line, and then sometimes you get caught for going over the line when technically you can say, but I wasn't over the line, and this person, I'm like, stop trying to live so close to the line. Okay. Now, you did highlight a problem that VTubing has that does not happen in people, is if somebody is figuring out their attire and they find out because they get a warning about their attire, will they put on a different top tomorrow?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's easy. Okay. For VTubers, since it takes time to spend to get your model and
Because they
get
have to
the
get
title for your
drawn.
model and all that, it's like, well, shoot, I just spent a fair amount of money on this.
Mhm.
Okay.
Mhm.
And I wish I would have known this in advance. I wouldn't have spent the money. I would.
Having VTuber clothing is basically like having designer. But instead of having like a bunch of different shirts, you only have the one shirt and it's designer. So it's super expensive and you can't go and just grab another one.
Love if we had some way to kind of help with 2D models or other things, kind of make an assessment, and that may also be the type of thing that maybe VTubers help us with this, right? That in fact, you would get a group of VTubers that, we work with, and then maybe something happens that in the VTuber Creator Club is VTubers, like, you can almost like, it's borderline. And if it's
I
borderline,
was actually going to suggest that in the
then
Creator Club. Yeah.
So
Oh.
we actually do that
That's
in
actually
our
a good
ambassador
idea,
group,
though.
and we have VTubers that represent the
They definitely need some kind of go-between. The Twitch staff, there's Twitch enforcement, and then the VTuber community. They need to have a go-between. A go-between. So either they pull VTubers from the community and try to integrate them in some sort of way, in some sort of manner, so they can advise the Twitch staff on how to properly manage the VTuber community and tell them what the culture is, so they don't piss everybody off like they are currently doing. Or they need some Twitch staff that are fans of VTubers. Simple as that. Now, I know Dan Clancy is a fan of VTubers. Obviously, we saw him at the VTuber Awards last year. But he's just one guy. How many people in the Twitch staff are fans of VTubers? There are a lot of leaks that say there is a lot of hot topic debates about whether or not they like VTubers or not. There's certainly a lot of leaks from Twitch staff.
ambassador selection. There's going to be more about this soon, but we really want to utilize our ambassadors as a way to help us get perspective from various creators. And ambassadors are meant to get sources because nobody's a monolith. So our ambassadors absolutely should be going to the creator clubs, getting broad understandings of like what those intricacies are, and then bringing that to us so that we can make better decisions for trust and safety. So we are absolutely doing that. I'm sorry. I wish I could like unveil this right now, but I can't. We're going to talk about it probably in like, I think in our open letter, we'll be talking about some of this stuff.
Good.
For sure.
All right. Well,
make it an open letter so people can't ask you questions in real time. That's why. I don't know if that's actually why, but people will certainly say that's why.
You know what
we
should do,
have
'cause
to
there are a
get to
ton of
our
questions.
Q&A, Dan.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. So, Geega, this has been great.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming. And looking forward, we should do a stream together sometime, whether it's in my
I would love to see that.
VTuber character or not. So maybe
We
we'll
need
plan-
VTuber Dan back. We need him back.
Yeah.
We do.
Yeah, I know.
It's
All
pretty
right.
cool.
Thanks.
Look
Geega.
like a cowboy.
Thank you so much.
So, yeah, that's the situation. Twitch is just going heavy-handed, and I don't think their ideas are going to work. I don't think, honestly, Twitch Ambassadors sounds like a great idea as having the go-between, but I don't think that's going to be enough. I think Twitch just needs to handle the fact that they need to adapt a proper label. Like having 18 plus or having lewd, like a lewd tag. Boom. If you have the lewd tag, ba bing ba boom, you don't run the risk of getting banned. If you don't have the lewd tag, then you do run the risk of getting banned. Simple as that. In terms of preventing minors from accidentally viewing lewd streams because they don't know that there's the lewd tag, well, I think they should just put a simple filter on it. If you have the lewd tag, it won't be shown to minors. Simple as that. Of course, unless the minor lies about their Twitch age, their actual age, when they made the Twitch account. But you can't really do much to stop that. But I think the Twitch problem's only ever going to get worse. And Dan Clancy and the Twitch staff aren't going to be able to address the problem adequately anytime soon.